Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Recognize the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Feenstra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman Smith. Thank you also to each of our witnesses for your testimony. I greatly appreciate it. Obviously, we've talked about, what has happened at the height of the pandemic with 15.4% unemployment, 23 million people unemployed. The circumstances obviously demanded a resolution, and we did that. But with that, created risk, and now we are responsible. We're responsible for oversight of the risk that incurred in giving these unemployment benefits. What's interesting to me is that we never had oversight or never had hearings in the 117th Congress, despite the warnings that were noted last March from the Department of Labor that we had $163 billion of improper payments. So I am grateful. I'm very grateful, and thank Chairman Smith for holding this hearing. And I also want to thank you again as witnesses for doing so and being part of this. Mr. Dodaro, it's very important, I think, that we continue to assess the exact scale of the problem. I mean, we really need to know the exact scale, and I know you've been working on that. I greatly appreciate it. The GAO's report last month noted that this is a little difficult concerning the false positives and false negatives. We're not sure. Also due to the lack of consistent and reliable estimates that cover all UI payments during the pandemic, it's not currently possible to combine existing estimates and measures to make a meaningful statement about the extent of fraud in UI programs during the pandemic. So in your testimony, you noted GAO has committed to build on existing evidence with its own modeling to calculate a more precise estimate. Can you talk about that? How do we refine our estimate, and what would be the barriers in refining that estimate?
Well, first, the Labor Department for a number of years has what's called the acronym's BAM, Benefit Accuracy Measurement Program. So they estimate a national fraud rate and a national improper payment rate. Yep. So far, they've not measured the improper payment rate for the pandemic unemployment insurance program. That was the one for self-employed people, a brand new program. We all think that the fraud rate's higher for that program than probably the more traditional unemployment insurance program because there was allow for self-certification rate. So what we're trying to do is to look at that program in particular. We'll see what the Labor Department comes up with their estimate, which is due this year, and then we'll do some sampling of that particular program. We're going to look and do some modeling of other areas. So we're going to take a modeling approach. We're also going to try to sample some of the estimates. Yep. And it's important to remember that our estimate of $60 billion is the low end.
Correct.
We've said that that's a low end. We're working on a higher rate now.
So when do you think you can have a more accurate number? At what point?
I mentioned earlier late this summer.
Late this summer.
Late this summer. If we do it earlier, I'll obviously let you know.
Yep.
But I think it's important to note that there are a lot of numbers out there, yep, but they're all bad.
I hear you. An accurate number would be wonderful. Then we know what we're dealing with, right? So another question. So I come out of the state of Iowa. I was chair of Ways and Means. I handled unemployment, the tax tables and stuff like that, understanding the nuances of unemployment tax. So when I look at empowering state auditors, I really think we can do this. I think we can use state auditors, but we got to empower them. So Dodaro and even Mr. Turner, what are your ideas to empower them? Because they're just not going to say, oh, I'm going to do this, right? I mean, they could care less about the federal government. It's like, but we can do things to empower them. What is your thoughts on that?
I think we should have specific audit requirements for state auditors to look at the unemployment insurance program and the Medicaid program. These are two programs on our high-risk list. Medicaid is one of the fastest growing programs. Right now, there's hardly any auditing done of the managed care portion of Medicaid.
But do they care? I mean, I look at the state going, and we use our tables, and it's like, what do we care about? Why should I do this for the federal government? I mean,
well, but I think in both of those programs, states provide their own money.
Yeah, right.
And so there's some incentives for them. I mean, the Medicaid program is probably a third of each state's budget, at least, in the program.
So do you think that's enough carrot? I mean, I just, in the back
all
of my
you
head.
got to do is turn an auditor loose, and you give them some money to pay
There's
for
the key. You hit it on the head. You give them a little incentive of money,
Right.
don't you
So
think?
You have to provide support. Now, right now, there's single audits that are done by state auditors.
Yes.
But they don't focus enough on the detailed aspects of fraud, mismanagement. They're a starting point for accountability, but they're not the answer.
No. Well, I want to thank you for that. I just want a quick note. I mean, when you work in business, you pay people to collect debt. That might be a clue for our state auditors and for the federal government. Thank you, and I yield back.
I think the representative would like to recognize the gentle lady from the state of New York, Ms. Maliotakis.
Thank you very much.